In 2020, the Ombudsman for Banking Service reported that it opened a record total of 7,717 formal cases. And when compared to cases in 2019, that was a 19% increase in complaints. During 2020, the OBS closed 7,230 cases compared to the 2019 closures of 6,133. That's an 18% increase. The Ombudsman for Banking Services, Reana Steyn, joins me now. Thanks so much for your time on SABC News. Before we get into the report, just give us a sense of what the Ombudsman for Banking Services does.
Good afternoon. Thank you for the opportunity. So what we do is we're a dispute resolution office. We are here, we are set up to really listen to consumers who have disputes with the banks and anything to do with the bank. So it could be any service-related issue or transaction, anything that they're unhappy with and that they've tried to resolve with the bank and they can't get it resolved. Then they can come to our office. I employ a team of lawyers. So it's really like a free legal service. We investigate the complaint from front to end, and then we give them guidance on what we think should be the outcome. And we liaise with the consumer and the bank. So we're the middleman, but we are here to mediate the disputes and investigate them.
So what were the kind of complaints that you saw in 2020?
So we were quite happy to see that there was a drop in the internet banking fraud-related complaints, which the previous couple of years were dominating our statistics. So that could be that, maybe consumers are more alert, to these phishing emails, and maybe there's some other bank systems that are more up to date and consumer awareness. So we have seen a lot of current account complaints, but still in current accounts, it's still fraud, a lot of fraud, especially phishing, people getting the phone calls, giving the OTP over the phone so that the fraudster can then purchase online. We have seen credit card complaints. It's still up there. Further down on the list is ATMs. They used to be, sort of right up there. We've seen that drop a bit, which we're also happy about. And then the internet banking, they're still there. It still happens. Phishing still happens, but it's less than it was in the past, in our office at least.
All right. The reports say that 26 million rand was returned to customers. Can you give us more detail about how this happened?
Okay, maybe just a correction. Sorry, there was an error there. It should be 16 and not 26. So apologies for that. But 16 million is still a big number because this is 16 million that the consumers would not have had if we didn't get involved, or that's how we see it. They came to us complaining that the bank does not want to settle a matter, does not want to refund them, does not want to correct an account, or does not want to pay them for whatever error they believe. And on investigation, we decided that the consumer's argument is correct, and then we convinced the bank through our arguments, showing them the details, showing the evidence that the money is in fact due to consumers. So that's how we get involved and returning the money to consumers into their pockets.
So COVID-19 has impacted on most people's finances. Did that come through in the report, and if so, how?
Yes, it did. But you'll see from the report that it was only 2% of our complaints. So I think what we really played a big role is in fielding the calls. So especially in the early days in COVID, our call centers, they were extremely busy because people were panicking. They didn't know where to go. They didn't know what to do. Fortunately, our call center was still, working full time, and they could advise consumers on what to do to go to their bank to ask for help. So we were very active in that space. I think a lot of consumers got the help that they wanted or that they were entitled to or that they could get. But we did see some complaints. 2% of our complaints still came through after giving them the advice to go to the bank as a complaint about what happened during the COVID relief period.
All right. The Ombudsman has also launched a service for vulnerable consumers. Tell us about that, please.
Yeah, so it's really, something we've decided to do, that we want to identify the vulnerable consumers when they come to us with complaints. So We've always had vulnerable consumers complaining to us, people over 80 years who were, victim of a fraud. And all we decided to do is we're going to actually make it a policy that we identify these people that in our opinion, are vulnerable consumers, so that we can take care to handle those complaints. I'm not saying differently, but that we are alerted that we're dealing here with a vulnerable consumer, either due to age, sometimes due to literacy, some other physical disability. I mean, you can't send somebody who is in a wheelchair and say to them, please go and see your banker. For another person, it's maybe good advice. So we wanted to be alerted, and also people who suffered from retrenchment or even crime. So we just wanted to be alerted ourselves in the first instance, and then we also share that information with the banks when we deal with the bank. Are you aware that we're dealing here with a vulnerable consumer? And we've seen that in many cases, it's really assisted in resolving the complaint.
All right, what if someone is watching this now and thinks they may have a banking complaint? How do they go about going to you, and what's your mandate? What can you get involved in and what you can't get you involved in?
So I think to make it easy, I mean, obviously there's a long list of, let's call it terms and conditions, but any bank-related matter, so a complaint against the bank, a service or a product of the bank in South Africa, we can get involved in, especially if it's a consumer. Businesses, yes, we do have a mandate over small businesses with a 10 million rand turnover. So quite a reasonable sized business. We can also assist, but we see very little of those complaints. I think business people, they often have their own access to legal people advice, or they are trained to do this themselves. It's the man in the street that we really want to help, who do not have the money to go to an attorney. And they also just don't know what to do. So they can come to us. They can contact us, and we try and make it very easy to log a complaint. So they can phone us. We will listen to the story on the phone, and we will assist logging the complaint. Email us. We've got a website. We've got an info inbox. Just send us an email. I don't know what to do. Please help. There's going to be somebody answering that. So lots of ways. If they can Google us, Banking Ombudsman, www.obssa for Ombudsman for Banking Services South Africa. That's how they're going to get to our website. A lot of information on our website. But yes, just a phone call away. And then from there, we will take them through the process. So we really try and make it easy for consumers once they get hold of us.
Reana Steyn, the Ombudsman for Banking Services, thanks so much for your time on SABC News this afternoon.
Thank you.